Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Seven Story Podcast. At least that's what it's unofficially called. I'm your host, Josiah Octop, and here we have Mary P Frino, who is an author and an editor. So, Maria, introduce yourself and tell the would-be crowd about what you do.
Hi everyone. Yes, I'm Maria P Frino. I live in Sydney, Australia, and I'm an author and editor, as you said, self-published, and I have about 10 books published at the moment.
All right. It's always good to meet a veteran, like someone that's
I'm
hit the double
definitely a
digits.
veteran.
Is someone that's hit the double digits, like it's tough to keep going through the ups and downs as an
Mm,
indie author. All right.
yeah,
So
yeah. You've got to focus on the ups.
right. Got right. And sometimes that's difficult.
Yeah,
All
yeah.
right.
It's a tough industry.
Right. So tell us about yourself. What do you do outside of writing? Like what's a day in the life like for you?
Um, my day job has always been writing. I've worked in television, which is where this book is set. Not that you can see that, but it's Fame and
Right.
Other Disasters. That's my latest novel.
Oh, okay.
So I started my career many, many moons ago in television and ended up as a makeup artist and production assistant. So it was a great first job. And then all my jobs after that have always been writing based, whether it be marketing or advertising. So I'm basically a copywriter, which is my day job.
Oh,
I'm
okay.
also a mum of two adult children. And yeah, we live in beautiful Sydney and not far from Sydney Harbour. So very
Okay.
lucky.
Gotcha. I gotcha. Oh man, like that's talk about like the advantage, Oh yeah, I started in writing and I've always been in writing, just like
Yeah. And I
no
didn't
other.
even realise it
Right.
until I actually became an author over 10 years ago. I
Right.
didn't realise that that was my skill.
Yeah. It's like, oh wait, I've been in writing like all this time. So it's like, oh man. Well, most authors wouldn't do for that type of advantage, to start off in the industry and not have to break in.
Mm. It has made it slightly easier in that the networking was already started, and
Right.
it has of course increased. I've met some wonderful authors along the way, um, and it's lovely when readers will reach out to you and say, "Oh, gee, I really loved your book," and oh God, the ego just flies.
All right. Oh God. All right. So, what inspired if you can, go back this far, what inspired like your first, novel? Like, what was the thing that got you into like becoming an author? You know?
um, I actually started writing for therapeutic reasons back in my late 20s, going through a bit of a difficult time. And then those notes just got shelved for years. And when the children were little and I did have time, I would write more notes. That book ended up being my debut, The Decision They Made. So I was born in Australia. However, my parents came from a southern Italian town. And so that book was inspired by them and stories that I heard of World War II and the reasons they all came to Australia. After the war, things were very difficult, and in a little town, there was no work. So most of the men left and came to places like Australia. They went to Canada, they went to Venezuela, Argentina, and made better lives for their families. So that debut is a historical fiction, and that started me on this. I thought that was going to be my only book.
Ah, okay. Oh man. Oh no, never. When writers talk about their debut, they're like, "Oh yeah, I'm making a series," or they'll say, "I don't know if I'm making another book, but for now, this is it." But I rarely meet the writers like, oh yeah, I thought this was gonna be my only book and that's it. But it turned out I had another one and
Mm,
and
mm.
another one and
Yeah,
another one.
yeah, just keeps going.
Oh yeah.
My current whip wasn't working for a while. It's a young adult sci-fi or sci-fantasy,
Mm-hmm.
and put it away for a little bit. I've only just come back to it, and I'm now making it, instead of a serious sci-fantasy, I'm going to make it a bit of a comedy,
Okay.
satire comedy.
Gotcha, gotcha. Oh yeah, the world's gonna need it, They're gonna need the
Mm.
satire.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, we all need a laugh these days.
right. So, how do you come up with characters for your work? Are they spontaneous or do you like plan them?
Depends on the story, actually.
Mhm.
Sometimes I have to think of someone within my group of friends or family, and sometimes it's a mashup of a few of those people. Um, Most of the time, they just come as I'm writing the story. Um, I don't have many issues with names, although with another young adult science fantasy that I wrote, Xenia Station Trilogy, I
Mhm.
did use fantasy name generator on
Right,
Google because I wanted names that were non-traditional and had a science fiction sound. But yeah, normally the characters tend to come, and sometimes they come when I don't need them, so I just write a note and go back to them another time.
oh, okay, gotcha. All right. Yeah, when I've asked authors this question previously, they sometimes, would say like, "Hey, look, I'm a plotter. I need a meticulous outline," or they'll say, "Nah, just fly by the seat of the pants and just go in." But I'm starting to see that authors are saying that it depends on the story. So
Yeah,
you know, like a fluid methodology. Yeah, that's interesting.
yeah. I don't plan anything, not even in
Yeah.
my real life. I just go with the flow, and I find that that's less stressful.
Right.
Um, and I'm the same when I'm sitting down being an author.
Mm.
And I write in a few different genres too, so that's why every book is different.
Okay, gotcha.
Mm.
Okay. So, what are some of your favorite genres to read? And are there any books you recommend to first time readers or people looking for something new?
Um, I do like historical fiction, and I will read science fiction. Although I really have to be into the book to be able to read science fiction, because some of them can be quite heavy, and the characters are not believable for me.
Right.
Historical fiction. I recently read The Women,
Mm-hmm.
and that was based in Vietnam. Very powerful book. Um, but I'm in a book club, so we read all sorts of genres. I love crime. I have
Right.
an old friend who writes brilliant crime, actually two. So there's not many books I won't read. I'm not particularly into horror,
Right.
although I have read a couple,
Mm-hmm.
and they've been a bit lighter on the horror side, and erotica. But
Okay.
anything else, I'll give it a go.
Okay. Oh man. I guess like, when it comes to like just reading, yeah, so similar in a way, like I have to be really into the book to read certain genres.
Mm.
Oh no, when it comes to fantasy and science fiction, I don't know. I just find it to be a bit predictable in my opinion. Like because like it's like the cover kind of if the cover is done, it represents like what the story is going to be about.
Mm.
People judge a book by its cover. Sometimes people's judgment is wrong, but I found that my judgment is pretty decent. Probably because I've watched a lot of like anime, TV shows, series, so like I have a
Mm.
unique perspective on like what a fantasy is going to be about. Like in the first couple of pages, I'd be like, oh yeah, this is going to be this type of story. Yeah, I'm not gonna,
Yeah.
or okay, I'll give this one a shot.
Mm.
And then, I'll be like, mm, all right, we'll see where it goes, but I'm not sold on it.
Yeah, I prefer to watch it. I mean, Star Wars, Star
Yeah.
Trek, Game of Thrones,
Hmm.
Lord of the Rings, enjoyed all of them.
Right.
But to sit down and read one of those tomes, I don't know.
Oh man. Like
They're
each book,
huge.
each book,
Yeah, they're a brick.
I'm like, nah. It's like, no. I mean, I've read a couple back in the day,
Mm,
all of them by Stephen King, but I've read a couple tomes back in the day, but like now
yeah,
it's like I don't have that type of interest.
yeah.
Read a 1,000-page book.
And
I
look,
might find the time, but not the interest.
yeah, I mean, you want to be entertained.
Yeah.
Reading a book is like watching a movie, although you can immerse yourself a lot more in a book than you can a movie.
Mm-hmm.
It can be educational. It can take you to another world. You can fall in love with the characters. You can hate the you know the villain, and this is all in your head. So
Mm-hmm.
you're spending time with yourself, enjoying and being entertained.
Mm-hmm.
So if that's not happening, read another book.
Right. Yeah, definitely. There's plenty of books where I just stop reading them because they just not interested anymore.
That's right. I mean, especially now with self-published books,
Yeah.
um, and they're getting better and better. There is just so much to choose from.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
Definitely.
and
So,
don't always stick with the number one or the top 10.
right.
There's a lot of good authors out there who need um, who have something to say, and
Right.
it's worth listening to them as well.
Oh yeah, definitely, definitely.
Yeah.
No, no, I gotta get more into indie authors.
Oh, great! Yeah, that's why I'm here.
Okay. So, what's the most difficult thing about being a writer, in your opinion?
Oh, the writing side's the easy side. I love it. If I'm not writing, I become a cranky old so and so. Um, so, and I'm a creator,
Right.
and the writing is the best part of it. The hardest is marketing, and
Mm,
even though I have a marketing background and I've written for a lot of different products,
mm-hmm.
when it's your own baby,
Mm-hmm.
it's difficult to be objective and be honest about your work.
Right.
So having started this as a hobby with my one book that I was only going to write,
Mm-hmm.
I didn't really look forward into the future. I didn't have a plan. As I said, I'm not a planner. So and everything that has come along, most of it has been very positive, which is fantastic. I've had some number ones on Amazon.
Mm.
A couple of my young adult trilogies have been at number one. The debut was number one over in Italy. So,
Okay.
I mean, that's great.
Right.
I never expected it. I mean, it's wonderful.
Okay.
And I encourage any person who has the gift of writing, use it. Go ahead and do something, even if it's like just being a copywriter, like I am. It's just such an interesting and rewarding job. It's always different too.
Right. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Yeah, I need to get back into it.
Oh, you're not writing at the moment,
Nah, I mean, well, not writing, but more so, publishing other people's writing. So,
right?
just helping
Yes,
others.
seven-story publishing. Yes, it's in the
Yeah.
name.
Uh-huh. Yeah. So, all right. So you say you're not a planner. So this question might not apply, but I'll still ask it just to see. So what's your process to completing a work from, start to finish?
Mm. Um, with the debut, I didn't have a plan at all. and the story just came out and flowed. But it took years. It was about 5 years after I picked it up again. It took 5 years before I published it. So when that became pretty successful, I thought, well, I need to do this better. I need to manage my time better. So now I do a timeline or a bit of a storyline, and I lay out each chapter. I'm not one of these people that puts Post-it notes all over the wall, or I don't have a whiteboard or anything like that. So I just, bring up a Word doc, put down some ideas. I might put the character, lay out the characters, the colour of their hair, their eyes, what their quirks are, all of that. So that's about the most planning I do.
Okay.
And then when I do start writing, that may go out the window, or I only use parts of it. So it's a way of getting my brain, getting the story to flow and come out without me having to do a million rewrites like I did for the debut.
Oh yeah, definitely. Oh man. Oh yeah, I'm a complete I'm a complete pantser. Yeah, I just start writing, I'll have a scene. All right, let's run with it. Let's go. Just start writing it, and whatever comes out,
Yeah. And did you know you were a writer from an early beginning?
Yeah, I mean, I used to write songs, like, raps and stuff like that, poetry.
Cool.
So, like in middle school and then, in high school, I started reading, first Sherlock Holmes, then Percy Jackson and the Olympians, and then that inspired my first novel. And then, it's been like that ever since, So yeah. And plus, being an English major in college and stuff like that. So it's like,
oh wow, of course. You had no choice.
Yeah. So I'm fully in it, like English is kind of like how my brain works. So
yeah, coming from a migrant family, my English was not my first language, even though I was born here. But of course, you go to school and you learn it. And it was actually my favorite subject at school. Even though I never went into further studies until I was in my 20s. And then I went and did a degree in marketing and advertising, and which was psychology and writing and the proper Queen's English.
Right. You gotta make it sound official,
Yeah.
Like it from Great Britain.
Yeah. Well, we're pretty close to Great Britain. I mean,
right.
in the way we live, and well, hey, most of the people who started Australia were from there.
Right. Got you. All right. So this next one is going to be a fun question to ask. I'll phrase it a little bit differently. So what's the most controversial thing you've written in your works? Don't worry, we don't judge here. We just.
I tend to stay away from controversy.
Okay.
However, I did write one book, which is called Two Men in a Shed. And I've got to say, it's not my favorite book, but it came out, and it's actually about two men who meet in a men's shed later in life. Now, a men's shed is where older men will go to build things, all the tools and everything are there for them, and it's a social thing for them to do. And a lot of them could be lonely, or, their wives might have just passed away. So that's where the concept came from. However, I made the wife, so she was married to both of these men at certain times. I made her quite promiscuous, and it didn't go down that well. So that's probably the most controversial. I flipped the promiscuous man to being the promiscuous woman. And a few people said they didn't like her, but that's the point. You're not supposed to like her. You're supposed to like the two men.
Right. Right. They cut us some slack here,
Yeah, look at it in a different way.
It's about
male friendships, and of course, Two Men in a Shed, a few people thought, ooh, is this a bit of
Yeah.
gay stuff in there? And I said, no, not at all.
Right. Right.
Not that there's anything wrong with that.
Right. But it's like, nah, that's not where it was going. That's
No, no, it's actually a trio, a love
right.
triangle,
Oh my God.
which
Okay.
is appropriate on Valentine's Day, I guess.
Right. I mean, you can find things out, things. All right. So you previously stated that you love the writing process of it, but even if you love the writing process, there's got to be something that kind of frustrates you about writing. So what's one
Mm.
thing about writing that just drives you up a wall, or at the very least is like a head scratcher moment?
Oh, yeah, when you get writer's block. And I think I've got a little bit of it now. It's slowly going away because my whip is now working. But
Right.
I've taken the longest break from writing that I have in, the years I have been a
Hmm.
novelist. And that's frustrating
Right.
when, the ideas are coming, but they're not right, or they don't resonate with me. So if they're not going to resonate with me, then
Right.
it won't work for the reader either.
Mm.
And I used to say, "Oh, I've got so many ideas. No, I'm not going to get writer's block."
Hmm.
And you do. It hits you sometimes. At some stage, you're going to get writer's block.
Ah. I mean, yeah. I don't know. Like when it comes to writer's block, I don't really think I've ever had it. I
Mm,
think it's just like, my attention gets diverted elsewhere, or like I'm focused
mm.
on something else aside from writing. Oh yeah, I'll
Yeah.
get distracted from writing real easy, like, and then just get whisked away by the trials and tribulations of life. And
Oh, easy. Yeah.
yeah, it'll be months, but like actual writer's block, I don't think I've had that, because
Yeah, this is my first experience of it. So
yeah,
it's,
I just, sit down and like, okay,
mm,
if I want to write, I'll just write. Like I'll just,
mm. I mean, I've did sit down and write. It wasn't that I had a full-on break.
yeah.
What I was writing was just crap. I just,
Right, got you.
no.
Like it just didn't have that. It didn't have that.
Yeah,
That
I mean, you know when your writing is good and when it's flowing.
yeah.
Well, at least I do.
Right.
Um, and having spoken to a lot of my author friends, they say the same thing.
Hmm.
So go off and do, if it's not flowing, if it's not working for you, go off and do something else. Like I will go and do a bit of gardening or go for a walk with a friend, go and have a coffee. We love
Hmm.
our coffee in Australia.
Right. It's more like in America, it is coffee too, but people like different things like it's coffee or hot chocolate or
Mm,
mocha latte,
tea,
Starbucks.
tea.
Yeah, tea is. Oh yeah, tea is up there too. You
Yeah,
know, it's definitely up there.
yeah. Well, there's rivalry between Sydney and Melbourne down in
Oh.
Victoria about who has the best coffee. So it's a big deal here. Uh,
Okay.
yeah, so yeah, if you do experience writer's block, it may only be a day, it may be months. You really have no control over it.
Right. Right.
Find something else to do for a little while.
Oh yeah, definitely,
Mm.
definitely. Well, if I do experience it, well, I could publish someone else's writing and help them gain visibility. So that'll be my something to do.
That's great. I mean, it's yeah. Publishing, as I said before, the industry is difficult, and especially these days with Amazon and all the big players, it's
Yeah.
not easy to get your book out there.
Oh yeah.
But the more books you have, what I've found is the more books you have, the more chance that a reader is going to find you.
Oh yeah. Definitely, definitely.
Mm.
But thing is, I used to want to be prolific, like Stephen King. Have like 50, 60 books out, but I found out I'm like, I don't really like writing, trilogies and stuff like that. I
Yeah,
prefer to write a standalone and then just call it a day.
yeah.
So
I
I
mean,
lean more toward like short form writing than long form writing.
Okay, in the poetry, and I don't know. I haven't actually tried poetry, so I don't know. I
Oh,
do read it, but I'm not that good at writing it, as far as I can tell.
yeah.
Yeah, I like my standalones. I like my contemporary novels. The Fame and Other Disasters, that's definitely contemporary. It's about a social media spat that two female TV hosts have over social media and what happens to their career and loss of jobs, loss of
Right.
relationships, and the trolls give them hell. So
Got
definitely contemporary.
Okay. All right. So, I mean, all right, we'll just ask the question. So, what does being a successful writer look like for you? What type of life do you want to live as a writer? Or are you living it already?
Yeah, I think I am. I didn't realize when I first started this how much I would be involved in the writing community.
Mm-hmm.
We actually, with myself and 5 other authors, started a group called Sydney Authors Inked, Inked,
Mm-hmm.
and we do free author talks and book talks, and also a book festival once a year. So that's a lot of work. It's all volunteer.
Mm-hmm.
It's not something we started to make any money out of, and we were lucky enough to find a free space, a lovely hall in one of the suburbs in inner Sydney. And last year was a full-on year for us. We did 6 two-hour talks and one large festival.
Mm-hmm.
And so this year we're taking it a little bit easier.
Oh, okay.
We're not going to do anything until mid-year. Yeah. So, I mean, yeah, that's been the biggest plus of becoming an author, is meeting all these people who are like-minded, and we all want to help young writers or emerging writers to get out there in the industry and not be one of these people or these groups that charge authors for absolutely everything.
Mm.
There's a lot of knowledge in our group and we all share it,
Right.
because there's too many scammers and some legitimate out there
Right.
who just want to charge constantly. We don't earn enough, especially self-published authors. It's just
Oh,
we just
yeah. Yeah, definitely, definitely. I totally get it. I mean, in Seven Story Publishing, we provide a list of free services for authors, to help with their visibility and things of that nature. We have
right.
some services that we charge for, but we provide free services as well. So, we don't try to constantly push the paid in your face. It's like, hey, look, we
Mm.
understand.
Yeah, well, you are a business, and I mean, I'm a business,
Yeah.
and I do want to make some money.
Right.
But I'm talking about, the ones on Instagram that say, "Hey, we can market your book and put up posts and la la la. We'll
Right.
get you 300,000 followers." And
Oh, yeah.
yeah, and I did get into a couple of those in the beginning, but I learned quickly that they're a load of rubbish.
Right. Oh, yeah, you quickly learn that they use, like, book engagement groups to artificially bump the numbers and stuff.
Mm,
And I just look at them like, "Hold up. You got a lot of likes, but where are the comments? Where are the shares?" That's how you.
exactly. You do learn to see which ones are legitimate and which ones are not.
Yeah.
Those bots are prolific.
Uh-huh. Definitely. So, all right. Well, actually, we're gonna skip this one because I want to give you the opportunity to promote yourself and get yourself out there, and just tell people who you are. Like,
Mhm.
let's get more people. Well, let's get more would-be people. Familiar with Maria P Frino. So take it away. You have the floor.
Great, thank you. Well, I have a website, mariapfrino.com. And if you look up just my name, Maria P Frino, you'll see me on Instagram, on Threads, recently started TikTok. And yeah, and I also have an Amazon author page. So I'm fairly prolific on the socials and online. Also in many libraries. You can ask for my book in libraries. And there's a few bookstores here in Sydney where you can get my books as well. And obviously you can email me. Just go to my website. If you have a question, if you'd like me to help you with something, sure, reach out. I'll have a chat anytime.
Yeah, alrighty. And that's a wrap for this one. I'd like to thank you for, coming down and interviewing with Little Old 7-Story Publishing. And I'd like to thank the 2 to 3 people that were here throughout. We love you. And we'll see you on the flip side. And yeah, great interview.
Thank you so much.
All right. Hold on.